Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, I am going to spend a little bit of time talking about a topic that has come up time and time again. And I don't know why, honestly, I never created a video on this particular topic, but I'm doing it. I'm finally getting around to doing it. And this is going to be very much a little bit of a loose structured kind of video. It's a little bit easier sometimes to do these videos because I can do them a little bit faster because there's less formality, but I still think that the quality of the video is still there. At least that is my hope. The question that I have been asked consistently by people is, why does the price of a comic appear differently here versus there versus this other place? And I've had a lot of people ask this question using different types of words. But at the end of the day, what people are essentially trying to do is to figure out what their comic is worth and why different pricing services provide different values for those comics. And I think people are really confounded by this because they're like, the book is what the book is, right? Raw or graded. The grade is what it is. The condition is what it is. There should be a price. And I do not disagree with that. I do not disagree with that at all. But if you think about it, a lot of things have prices that are different depending upon where you look for them. If you look for a house value, for example, if you look on a Redfin versus another site, you will find different values for that house. If you look for the price and the value of a car, Kelly Blue Book will have a price and somebody else will have a different price. The fact that there are different prices and values for something is not unique to comics, right? It is not unique in any way, shape, or form. There are different ways that values are determined. And based upon the site or the service that you're using, they use different formulas and calculations so as to arrive at a price. A house, a car, yes, much more expensive. Maybe not always much more expensive than a comic, but the logic still holds true. And it would be great if the price was the price everywhere, and it would be super simple if that were the case. Such is not life. Such is not the case as it is with this hobby of comics, right? And so when people are trying to look up the value of a comic book, depending upon where you look, you will see a value. If you go multiple places, there is a very good chance that you are going to see different values for that exact same comic, whether it be raw or graded. And there are reasons for this, right? And I've actually done interviews with services like Cover Price and Go Collect and comicspriceguide.com. I've done interviews with many of these folks. I've spoken to many of these folks. And what I can tell you is that how they process data, how they aggregate data is very different. And because it is different, the values that they provide you are going to be different, right? And here's what I mean by that. There could be a pricing service that is out there that pulls data from eBay, but they actually combine that data from eBay with private sellers, with dealers, with auction houses like Heritage and Comic Link. And depending upon the aggregation of those data, depending upon the number of sales across those different platforms, they could arrive at a number. You have a different pricing service that also aggregates data, maybe from eBay, but maybe from different private sellers, and maybe only from Heritage, but not Comic Link. And as a result of that, when they aggregate that data and they compile it, that number will look different from the very first that does it. They too would have different people that they're pulling data from. Therefore, the results will be different. Now, layer on top of that, right? So they are pulling data sometimes from the same sources, sometimes from different sources. The next layer is the time. When are they pulling that data? Some pull it daily, some pull it weekly, some might pull it monthly, some might just do an aggregation of a 3-month average just from eBay. And so again, that is another layer that will result in you seeing different type of information, right? The next layer, sometimes with some of these pricing services, they actually have people that go in and do a little bit of a spot check on the data. This number doesn't look right, right? This is Amazing Spider-Man 300 that sold for $1. That does not seem right. Or more importantly, that Amazing Spider-Man 300 sold for $86. And when you go in and you look at it, what you realize is that sale, that transaction is one of those scam transactions on eBay that we see all the time, where a really expensive book is being sold out of China for $86 or $82 or whatever the number is this month. The human that goes in and looks at that data at that pricing service will throw out that particular number. And as a result of that will change that aggregation. It will change the value for the Amazing Spider-Man 300s that have been sold in that period. You could have a data aggregator, a pricing service that does not have a human component and does not go in and pull out that transaction that is fraudulent and throw it out. And so they could factor that number in, which means that the value of the Amazing Spider-Man 300 has now gone down because of a transaction for $86, right? My point is that these pricing services aggregate data from different different sources at different times. They also have different filters that they will apply to that data. Sometimes it is an algorithm that gets run. Sometimes it is literally a person that either works for the company or is employed by the company to spot check the data to essentially scrub it and clean it up. For all of these reasons and many, many more that I cannot get into, that is why you cannot necessarily look up the price of Amazing Spider-Man on this service and see that exact same number on that one and then the other one, because they're all doing slightly different things. And I will tell you, I've only cited like 3 factors. There are other factors at play here that will affect it. And so what do you do? What do you do in this situation where you either have a comic that you want to buy or a comic that you want to sell? How do you determine, right? The piece of advice that I always give people is to find a pricing service or two that actually works for you and use that. Let that be your North Star. Don't go around price shopping, because this is what people will do. If I'm selling a book, people will go around and they will look for the pricing service that has the highest price. And that is the price that they offer that book for. If they are trying to buy a book, they will go to all the pricing services and find the one with the lowest price. And that is the price that they want to buy for. The people will essentially price shop or value shop. That's tough. That's tough to do because of everything that I just mentioned. The best piece of advice that I can give you is to find a pricing service or two that makes sense to you, that is credible. Doesn't matter which one it is. Find it, lock it in, use it consistently. And that way, you know, at least you are being consistent in your approach. And I can tell you for a fact, this is how I buy and sell comics. I have 2 sources that I use for really, truly 2 sources that I use for values. And I consistently use them year after year, whether I am buying or selling. Those 2 sources are my North Star, and that is essentially what I use. And that way, again, at least I'm being consistent in my approach, and I am not shopping for the best price to sell or the lowest price to buy, right? That is just the way that I do it. So hopefully this helps people just a little bit, because this is one of those topics, again, that comes up consistently. And I've been answering it time and time again, one off. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just finally create a video to actually impart some of this information onto people. But here's the thing. This is what I want to do. I actually want to look at a couple of examples. And I will be honest with you, I'm going to be honestly doing this on the fly. So if there are some numbers here that actually that line up where they actually make sense. It is purely going to be by happenstance. And if the numbers are crazy numbers, it will again be by happenstance because I am using some notes from a previous video that I did to actually use it for this video to identify which books I want to look up. So that's how I'm doing this. This is not something that was prearranged. I am literally doing this on the fly. So in looking at my notes here, this was actually notes from a video that I did about the differences between green labels and blue labels. And one of the books that I looked at was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 14. And so what we are going to do is we're going to look up we're going to use two pricing services, and we're going to look up a couple of books. And again, as I mentioned, the first one is Amazing Spider-Man number 14. So we're going to Amazing Spider-Man, and then we're going to type in 14 here. And what we're using on this one is comicspriceguide.com. And I'll tell you a little bit more about comicspriceguide.com and the other site in just a moment and how I use them. But here is the book. Let me make sure you guys can see that. You can, it's a little small, but I'm actually going to click here after searching for it. I'm going to click on this first one because that's the book that we're talking about, Amazing Spider-Man number 14 from July of 1964. All right, so blow that up so that we can all see it. One of the great things, maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. One of the great things about comicspriceguide.com is that they actually provide you with the raw values for a comic as well as the graded values for a comic. And what I want to do really quickly is we're just going to look up, let's look up at a 6.0. That might be a better grade. So here we have a 6.0 of Amazing Spider-Man 14. And you can see again, the first column is raw, which comes out to be about $1,700. And a graded 6.0 comes out to be about $1,940. That is the price that they are putting on this particular book over at comicspriceguide.com. All right. So let me stop sharing that for a second. And I actually want to pop over to Go Collect. Go Collect is another site that I actually use for valuations. And you can see what I was looking up earlier. We're going to look up Amazing Spider-Man number 14 over here. Yeah, 14. All right. And with this one, we're going to click on the link here. Let me make sure you guys can see that. You can indeed. All right. So this is attempting to load here. Give it a second. Hopefully it does not hang up on me, because that would not be good if that were to happen. And like I said, there are a couple of ways in which I actually use these sites, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But we looked up what in the previous one, a 6.0. So we're going to scroll down here and we're going to look up a 6.0. And essentially what Go Collect is showing is that the FMV, the fair market value for 6.0, according to Go Collect, is $2,100. And I think that Comics Price Guide had it at $1,940, which is not too far off, right? That is not too far off. And when you expand on the data, what you see from Go Collect is that the most recent sale was about $2,100. $2,000. There was another sale for $2,300, another for $1,800. So not a whole lot of difference really between the two of these, right? One is definitely higher than the other at $2,100 versus around $1,940, but they are not necessarily night and day. They are definitely still in the ballpark. One of the things that I do like about Go Collect is that they will actually give you the fair market value of this comic. So I know a 6.0, it has a fair market value of $2,100, but I also have the ability to look at the sales data and the dates associated with those sales. And I can even drill down and look at the individual transactions and the books themselves. So there's a lot of data here that Go Collect actually provides. Now, when you toggle back, and I will try to do that, when you toggle back to comicspriceguide.com, you don't necessarily get all of that data, right? What we do know is that a 6.0 has an FMV graded of 1940. We know that it has, I'm sorry, I misspoke. A 6.0 has a value, according to comicspriceguide.com, of 1940. That's what we know. We don't necessarily know what the sales were. We don't know whether there were sales above or below. We certainly don't know when these sales took place, right? So we don't know how recent recent this data is. We don't necessarily have the ability from this to look at whether it was a CGC book or CBCS book. We don't know whether these books have been, whether there's other grades. See, they actually have in here, graded values do not take into account the cost of getting the item graded by any third party. That's fine. There's no worries there. But when you don't get as much information as you do on Go Collect, and this is not a criticism of Comics Price Guide. This is not a criticism at all. I am pointing out the differences that exist between these two pricing services should you choose to look at them. All right. So we just looked up one book, and what we noticed there again was that there wasn't a huge difference that exists between at least those two books at a 6.0. Let's look up another book. Let's look up another book here, and let me see what I have on my list. I have Silver Surfer #4. So let's look up Silver Surfer. Oh, I'm typing that in the wrong place. That is the wrong place. We're going to type 4 right there. We're going to type in Silver Surfer 4, and let's search for that. Let's see what we see over here. So Silver Surfer issue #4 right here. And we're going to look up, let's get aggressive. Let's get aggressive. And we're going to look up at, let's look up at a 9.0. Let's look up at a 9.0, very fine, near mint copy of Silver Surfer issue #4. Really dope cover. You can see that book has a graded value of $952. Okay, so we're going to go back. $952. We're going to go back over here to Go Collect, and we're going to look up the exact same book. Let me make that a little smaller so I can see the whole thing. I'm going to go, what was I looking up? Silver Surfer #4. So we're going to type that in. Same book. We're going to click on that. And I think we were looking at a 9.0 with that one. So we're going to look up the exact same grade over here. And hopefully we're going to get some results that give us some information. All right. So we're going to blow that up a little bit bigger. And we can see here that a 9.0 FMV is at $16.50 right now. Last sale was on August 20th. And we can expand that to be able to see what some of the data is. So according to comicspriceguide.com, a graded 9.0 of Silver Surfer #4 sells for $952. According to Go Collect, that exact same book has an FMV of $16.50, and the most recent sale as of 8/27/2020 was $2,000. And you can see here that they pull from eBay and from Comic Link and from Heritage. This book has been north of $1,500 for the last several sales. So that is actually a pretty substantial difference that exists between Comics Price Guide and Go Collect. And again, what we don't know from Comics Price Guide, we don't know when their data was actually pulled. We do know from Go Collect when their data was pulled, because we have the ability to actually look at the data. So that is a very, I think, important distinction to be able to make between these two services, because the timeliness of the sale actually matters. And it matters because all of you know just how dynamic our market actually is. Our market is incredibly dynamic. It is influenced by social media, by YouTube, by breaking news, by leaked stories. And so by having a pricing service that transparently provides us with a great deal of information, not in real time, but in near time, is extremely helpful if you are buying or selling a comic. I think that is an important thing to make, or an important distinction for us to make here. So let's look up one more, and then I'll try to make a couple of points about these various sites and how I use them, because there is definitely a reason why I am trying to show you both of these sites. So we're going to shrink that down a little bit more. Let's look up a DC book. Let's give DC a little bit of love. All right, so let's go ahead and look up Detective Comics 359. Detective Comics 359. Let's go ahead and look this one up and see what we see. Really awesome book right here, first appearance of the new Batgirl. So we're going to go ahead and click on that one. And it's a cool book. I at some point will pick this book up. So we're going to look at this book and let's keep it consistent. Let's look at a 9.0. Let's look at a 9.0. 9.0 sales graded for $2,200. $2,200 at a 9.0. And they give us a nice little image of what the book actually looks like, which I think is really helpful, especially because there's a lot of variant covers and alternative covers and, newsstand versus direct. And there's a lot, not necessarily with this book per se, but I think you guys get where I'm going. The images sometimes help us because the text isn't always as definitive as we would want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that one. And then I'm going to go over to Go Collect. Did I share that one? No, I did not. Good thing I stopped. Let me go ahead and share the Go Collect as well. And I'm going to scroll over and I'm going to search for Detective Comics. What did we say? 359? Okay, 359. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and search for this one. And we pulled up a 9.0. So let's go ahead and see what we can see when we actually pull up the grades of this book. And you can see there's a Toys R Us replica out there, a facsimile edition, a Millennium edition, just to name a few there. So we're going to blow this up so you guys can see it. Maybe that's a little too big. So I think we looked up a 9.0 on comicspriceguide.com. And over here on Go Collect, we are seeing $4,800 as an FMV. FMV of $4,800. The last sale was in June of 2020. And you can see that there have been 11 sales, not a whole lot of sales. And I think that that's also important, is not only can you see at least up to the last 25 sales with Go Collect, but you can certainly see if there are fewer sales and you know exactly how many sales that there have been. Again, all important information for us to make, especially when you're talking about graded comics. So over here, you can see that there was an FMV of $4,800. Last sale on 6/16 was indeed for $4,800. Comic Link sale before that, $4,500. I'm not going to click on these Comic Link and Comic Collect because I'm not logged into those, but you can see back to 2015, this book was selling for around $2,200. And what did Comics Price Guide have it at? Comics Price Guide had it at $2,208. So that is a substantial difference. The data that Comics Price Guide is pulling is essentially equivalent to the price of this book, this important book, back in 2015, right? And I'm not doing the math. I'm not doing the math, and I'm certainly not going to do it in my head. You guys can do the math. But again, this book just sold for $4,800, and Comics Price Guide actually has it at $2,208. That is a substantial difference in the two of these services, right? So again, this is not a criticism of Comics Price Guide, because I actually like Comics Price Guide. But what happens is it doesn't necessarily provide us with all the information that we need to know the same way that Go Collect actually provides it, right? The timeliness of the sales, the ability to look back in history, at least with the last 25 sales or so, is incredibly helpful to us, especially because our market is so dynamic. So the question remains, why would I take the time to show you these two pricing services? If I am not trying to criticize one or necessarily compare one to the other, why am I doing it? I'm doing it because I want to illustrate a point on how I actually use these two services, because I actually use them in many ways together. If I have a comic that I am trying to buy or sell, I use Go Collect. And I have if that book is graded, right? If the book is graded, I use Go Collect, and I have consistently for over 2 years used Go Collect. Go Collect actually not only gives you the CGC data, they give you the CBCS data. You have the ability to look at the different labels, the universal, the green label, the yellow label, look at all the sales data. You have a lot more insight with Go Collect for graded books than what you were able to get from Comics Price Guide. One of the limitations of Go Collect is that they don't have raw prices. Go Collect is for graded comics. And that's somehow or another something that people miss whenever I talk about Go Collect. It is only for graded comics. CBCS, CGC, all of the labels, but graded only with Comics Price Guide. Yes, they have graded books, but that's not where I use them. I use them for raw book pricing because in my mind, the Comics Price Guide website, I do believe, is the largest database out there of comics. And I think it's the largest in my mind as it relates to raw books than graded books. And so if I'm having a hard time figuring out what a book is, if I have a raw book and I need to price it, I am going to comicspriceguide.com because their database is large. They have lots of data. And for raw books, I think that it works, right? Because you have to use something. So what do you use if not a data aggregator? So some people would say, well, why don't you just use eBay? eBay is great. eBay is only one segment of the market. eBay is a large segment, but as you guys know, the prices that are on eBay are inflated, and they're inflated because people are trying to make money. They're trying to cover their eBay fees. They're trying to cover their PayPal fees, and they just want to make as much cash as they can. And there is nothing against, I have nothing against that. I believe in capitalism, right? But if I am trying to really figure out a fair price for something, you don't just look at one reference point and say that that's it. What you do is you use a pricing service that is essentially a data aggregator. The pricing services pull in data from multiple sources across the different markets that exist. They bring that data in, they scrub that data, and then they provide you with a number that is much more representative of the entire value spectrum, not just a single reference point, because a single reference point can be skewed one way or the other. But again, a data aggregator is designed to help you to smooth out some of that stuff and to give you a real picture of what's happening. So for me, if it is a graded comic, I go to Go Collect. If it is a raw book, I go to comicspriceguide.com. And I have consistently done this for a couple of years now. And there are other pricing services out there. And I think that there is no best pricing service. There is no best. I think you have to find a pricing service that actually works for you, that makes sense to you, and then you just use that one consistently. People oftentimes ask me about GPA. What do I think about GPA? I think GPA is great if you want to use GPA. I struggle with them a little bit for a couple of reasons, because I think that their price is incredibly high for what you get. I think that their website is not as robust as it could be. I think that their website is not as user-friendly as it could be. And as of the last time that I looked at GPA analysis, they only provided data for CGC. And yes, CGC is the largest third-party grading out there. But again, CBCS is doing some good stuff. CBCS is a player in the market. They have a database. They have a healthy number of books, depending upon the age of the book, in their database. And so a data aggregator like Go Collect that pulls from CBCS and CGC gives me a more holistic picture of what is happening than just a pricing service or a data aggregator that only looks at one type of graded comic. And so again, hopefully this helps people to understand a little bit about what I'm doing, why I do the things that I do. At the end of the day, you have to figure out what actually makes sense for you. And if it makes sense, then that's what you should do. But again, I just wanted to provide a little bit of insight. And again, hopefully it's helpful to people. Certainly, if you have issues, questions, comments, thoughts for me, don't hesitate to leave those things behind in the comments. As you guys know, I read about 90% of the comments there and will actually reply back to you. So you can certainly do that. Or if you have some more nuanced questions, you can actually reach out to me in one of two ways: on Instagram at Regie Collects, which is my preferred, or if you need to, you can send me an email to Reggie at regiecollects.com. If you have a little bit of time and you wanted to dig into some good blog posts, I want to encourage you to head over to my website. I have some fantastic bloggers by the name of Scott and Doug who are dropping, and Ariel, that are providing me with some really awesome articles that are being posted up every single week. So I certainly want to encourage you guys to head over and to check out those blog posts. I will tell you, we do one almost weekly on a new comic that is dropped, and they are spot on. And then we also do some really great thought-provoking posts as well that will get you to think. So I want to encourage you to check those out if you have a little bit of free time. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed it, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment behind so we can mix it up in the comment section. Take care.